Welcome to our new episode of Speak Revenue. Remember, revenue is not a goal, it's a result. But a result of what exactly? In this show, we turn our eyes from the output towards the input. We speak with sales leaders and entrepreneurs about their journeys. So join us on our quest to uncover and learn the root causes of their success. Let's unpack what works for them and what didn't. Today, with my guest and my friend, Cliff Simon, I'm so excited to have you here in the studio. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
Cliff, I think I know you quite well, but such a deep person. There's probably just scratched the surface. For our audience and those who still don't know you, there shouldn't be any, but there might be some. Real quick, who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? And why are you so successful?
First off, thanks. I think you give me far too much credit. I'm Cliff Simon. I'm the CRO of Carabiner Group. What do I do? We help companies take a look at that customer buying journey and leverage technology in a way that actually helps them propel that go-to-market motion forward. What's made us successful has been a unique approach to go-to-market, a lot of it being centered around community-led growth.
And I remember vividly about a year ago in Cali, I don't remember which conference it was. You stepped me through your process, and that was a revelation. Step us really quickly through the process. You're essentially in a consulting business. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. We do
So,
RevOps as a service.
so consulting requires a special level of trust.
That's right.
How do you build this trust? How do you leverage communities in your go-to-market approach? Tell us.
So I think it takes taking a step back from the question. Our thesis on go-to-market has been that people in the B2B space want to buy in the way that they buy in B2C. Right? And what's the number one way people buy in B2C? 54% of folks buy through word of mouth referral.
Yeah.
So for me, as a go-to-market motion, when I was an individual contributor, it was showing up at conferences. And if my company wouldn't pay for me to go to the conference, showing up at the bar, showing up at the restaurant, staking out the name tags and going and having a conversation, right? The underlying question is, where do your customers go to get their questions answered and to get help, right? Pre-COVID, that was at conferences. And nowadays that happens too, but 2020, 21, 22, a lot of that moved to online communities. So that's where we've made our home.
First of all, can you name some communities that every VP sales, no matter which industrial vertical, should be a member of?
There's several that I definitely attribute with a lot of our success in my own growth into the C-suite. Pavilion being chief among them. We're exclusive partners with them. We've got a great relationship with the folks at Rev Genius, Sales Assembly, Wizards of Ops. We're exclusive with the RevOps Co-op folks as well. From a sales perspective, I'm also somewhat involved in Modern Sales Pros, Sales Hacker. There's all of these places that you can go, and there's the larger ones, there's some micro ones, but it's really about building relationships and, to your point, building that trust.
So let's look at a community, and maybe we make an example with Pavilion. We are both members of Pavilion. I think we're both members of Rev Genius and a number of others you mentioned. All those communities have the risk that if you just show up and you're being salesy, then, well, that's bad for you. That's bad for the community, and you ain't going to close anything. They're filled
Right.
with amateurs or beginners who have the need to sell something and tell everyone on the first handshake, hey, I'm selling this and this. Are you buying? We help companies like yours. You don't know anything about my company.
It's the worst way to do it.
Yeah, I
It's the
hope
worst way
this
to do it,
email
right?
found you well. No email has ever found me well. But listen, how do you do this? How do you do this in a community without coming across salesy?
I think it's, you take the sales hat off, right? It's not about selling. It's about building relationships and building trust. And how do you do those things? Just like you would in real life in the B2C world, like you would in your personal relationships with others. You show up, you do so consistently, you lead with empathy, right? You look to add value into other people's lives, help them solve their problems. Right? I was doing 40 to 60 Zoom calls a week for the first 18, 20 months that I was here at Carabiner.
Wow.
And 9 times out of 10, it was I saw someone having a problem. I responded to that problem because, I'm fortunate enough to have almost 2 decades of go-to-market experience in mid-market and enterprise across a variety of industries, right? So have a pretty unique purview and was able to give that perspective, say, hey, I've seen a problem really similar to what you've dealt with or what you're talking about here. How can, if you want, like we can take some time and I'm happy to share with you how I solved for that in the past and perhaps how you might solve for it now. And we can workshop that together. If you want to have a conversation, great. If not, I'm not asking you for your business. And coming off of that, it'll be a 25-minute conversation about their problem. At the end, it's always, what do you do? Oh, I run a RevOps agency. Oh, okay. Maybe there's a need there, maybe there's not. But the ask would always be, listen, I expect nothing from this. But if someone asks you about RevOps or mentions that they have a problem with that, just remember my name, right? It was really deep down going after that concept of give, add value, become a thought leader, and not trying to extract value. But that came over time because I was showing up consistently, leading with empathy, being a human, treating other people the way I wanted to be treated.
I like this a lot. I keep saying in almost every episode, I keep repeating there are only four ways how you can tell somebody about your business and what you're doing. There are people who know you and people who don't know you. And you can do this one-on-one and you can do this one-on-many. That's it. There are not more possibilities. So just to go through the exercise, if you tell people who don't know you one-to-many, then we are talking billboards on the street, TV commercials, right? If we are talking one-to-one with people who don't know you, then we are talking cold email, cold calling. And don't confuse cold email. It's not one-to-many. Even if you send 1,000 emails, it's one-on-one, just very fast. And then we can tell people who know us one-to-many. This is when we post on LinkedIn, or, and this is going to be my new example, if you answer in a Slack channel of a community a question about a problem. Those are people who know you from this community. And if you then go into this one-on-one, then you have this warm people know you one-on-one. And this is where we close businesses.
And that's just how it happens in the real world too, right? We go to these conferences, we see folks, the businesses don't come together, the people do. And it's not at the event, it's at dinner or at a happy hour, or you decide to go catch a hockey game together, right? And that's where relationships come together. And that's what moves things forward, right? People
Yes.
buy from people.
Yes, that's so true. Now, I know that you're extremely busy. I know that your time is extremely valuable. I cannot see how you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day going through Slack conversations in bazillions from different community. How do you hands-on? How does Cliff even find, identify, qualify, disqualify the conversation where he gets engaged?
Oh, I think it's about where can I add the most value, right? What specific communities or which specific pockets of folks within a certain community can I have an outsized impact on, and how can I help them with what they're dealing with today? And that's changed over time, although it's stayed largely similar as far as the personas. But the way I engage, I think, has changed a bit. Originally, the way I did that was leveraging Slack, using some features that were available there to be able to quickly identify folks that had questions that I knew I could answer, and then leaning into the community and adding value, right? And it was super successful. I was booking something like 83 meetings a month doing that when we were first building the business out. That has grown and changed over time to now a lot of those word of mouth referrals aren't just coming from people within the community. That's grown, right? Those concentric circles have continued to push out.
Mhm.
So it's not just the people that I know that I've talked to, it's their friends or their boards or their growth and operating partners at the VC and PE firms that they partner with. So it's really interesting to see where things come from today versus where they came from 2 years ago. But it's the product of showing up consistently month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, right? This isn't something that you can just start doing tomorrow and have instant success. It takes a quarter or two or three to really see that knock-on effect and have it to become something that's repeatable enough that you can actually do forecasting off of it. But it does get there, right?
Where do I start? If I'm a VP sales and I've been doing cold calling, cold emailing, SEO, the whole shebang, and I see this is all getting worse and worse and worse and
Yeah.
coming to a screeching halt, and my open rates are down, my response rate are down, nobody's picking up the phone anymore. How do I start? What do I do tomorrow? What do I do today?
I think it really goes back to, where do your customers go for help? What is their buying journey? When I'm looking to buy something, whether it's a piece of tech, a new mattress, a new car, whatever, I talk to my friends. I ask them what they think. What have they used? What have they found helpful? And then maybe as a next step beyond that, I'll go check reviews online, right? So maybe I'm going to G2 or App Exchange or whatever, Trustpilot, who knows, right? And you start aggregating data as a buyer, because I want to understand what's available to me and what fits what I perceive my use case to be, whether that's in my personal life or at work. So go to those places. Go to the places that people look for that information and do what you can to provide value there. Right? That's going to look different for everyone
And I think
depending on the industry you're in.
it's so important to emphasize this. When you say deliver value, it does not mean tell them what you do. No,
No,
help them with whatever you can help them with.
that's right. Yeah. This is not I'm telling you about me so that I can extract value, and typically in terms of monetary value, right? This is, I'm showing up and I'm pouring into you. I'm giving you value. I'm not expecting something in return, and I'm trying to see how I can help you solve your problem. Case in point, right? I just had a partner of mine literally before this call pull me into a call with a client of theirs. They're having a problem with an implementation. There's a significant issue because of the underlying architecture in HubSpot. They need to implement a CPQ. They weren't sure if they needed to. Most likely never turn into something that's actually valuable for us from a revenue perspective. But I had a CFO, a head of biz ops, and a VP of CS on a call. And I was able to give them 4 or 5 actionable things that they could take away and think about. And maybe they switch off of HubSpot and go to Salesforce because they need a tool that's a little bit more robust for where they are in their journey. Maybe they don't. Or maybe they purchase one of the 3 CPQ tools we talked about on HubSpot, right? That's up to them. But I was able to give them perspective and a third party view that didn't have any specific leverage to gain, or
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah.
No skin in the game. Yeah. And you can apply this to really any market. While I was listening to you, I was thinking, I think it's Bob Moesta with the demand side sales. He tells the story about flipping houses, and they were offering landscaping and gardening services, because this is how you get to talk to house owners. And then you find out when they are ready to move out, or when they're thinking about downsizing, children have moved out and they're thinking, I can't do the gardening alone anymore. I need help. This is how they come in. Once they had helped them with gardening over a couple of years, they have the foot in the
That's
door.
lovely. Well, that, and you're probably also using them to enhance the curb appeal as you get ready to put the thing on the market.
Yes, exactly. So really,
Oh, that's
whatever comes in the bubble around your subject, think somebody said a lead magnet is a full solution for a very narrow problem. And I think a great example has been given by the people from Gong. They were amazing, because let's think about what Gong does. Gong records sales conversations and helps you to train your sales. It's only helpful if you actually have conversations. If you have empty calendars, it's utterly useless. So they had
Yep.
to solve the first problem, and their content marketing was, here are 25 templates for cold emails. Here are 25 tricks how to book meetings, because they help VP sales and the head of sales and team lead sales to
That's right.
build calendars. Now they have the foot in the door and they can sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love your approach by, do you know someone who? You said this before. Tell us a little bit more about this. You go into this conversation, you solve a problem that is not in your, say, commercial expertise, is not a service that you sell. But then you had a nice saying, if somebody asks for help, if somebody has this type of problem, just remember my name. Tell us a bit more of how you practically put this into a conversation.
It's funny because this was ingrained into me at such a young age. I know you're not from the States here, but a lot of folks here have either sold or purchased Cutco knives, right? And the entire concept behind that is you basically go around to all your friends and family trying to sell them knives. And then you ask them, hey, do you know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people that you might recommend that I have a conversation with about this? Even if you don't buy, if you give me X amount of referrals, I can give you something. So there's a value exchange for that thing that they might have wanted. Or anyway, take that 20 years down the road now. It's something that I think a lot of sellers overlook, right? And I've been hearing this since I first broke into B2B decades ago, right? You just ask. A lot of people just don't do the basics. Asking for a referral it's the easiest thing to do, especially after you've provided value, right? For potential prospects. When you're talking to your existing client base and they've had a moment of delight, you and I both do a lot of winning by design stuff. Jocko talks about that popsicle moment, right?
Yes.
When your customers experience a moment of joy, that's the best time to ask for a referral. Hey, who else in your network do you know that has this problem? Because I know you network with other people,
Yeah.
right?
And
What
it's
other leaders
also,
that you talk to, right? Yeah.
if you ever are afraid to come across salesy, I think the best antidote is don't come across salesy. Ask if they know somebody. Don't pitch
Yeah.
something like, hey, Cliff, by the way, do you know somebody who should come on my podcast? By the way, do you know somebody? Then tell me after the show.
Yeah. That's easy.
And of course, you're talking to them. They might go, yeah, I need this. Or they go, not from the top of my head, then no harm is done.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? It doesn't have to be today,
Yes.
right? I don't need that now. It's you're planting a seed, right? We've had referrals come in from folks that I met at an executive dinner 18 months ago and they told me about them and it just happened to come up. That's the thing with this. You're playing the long game.
Let's talk
You're,
tools. How do you do this? You've been at this executive dinner 18 months ago. You've been at that conference. You're in bazillion of Slack channels and email-based forums and so forth. How the heck do you keep track of all those people? You're not working alone. How big is your team right now?
on the go-to-market side, I think we're at 4 people.
So how do you keep track of who spoke with whom so that nothing falls behind the digital cracks and you keep that contact warm?
So Slack Salesforce integration helps. We use Ebsta to ingest all of our email and calendar data. So that's all being tracked inside of Salesforce. We pull data off of our Calendly directly into HubSpot that gets integrated directly into Salesforce as well. So it gives you a unified view. And then as far as the way that we action it,
Step us through this because I think this is really of value to the listeners. You mentioned Slack Salesforce integration.
yep.
Step me through how this works.
So it works far better for us on the CS side of the house than it does, like say in Pavilion, right? I don't own Pavilion.
Mhm.
I don't own their Slack channel. I don't have access to the metadata there. But for us, when we interact with our customers, we're doing all of that on Slack Connect as a day-to-day
Mhm.
communication tool.
Mm.
We also use that to integrate into Jira, into email, so that we have one, God, I hate this stupid saying, but it's that virtual HQ, right?
Mhm.
We're a
Yeah.
fully remote company.
Yeah.
So being able to see and visualize and touch everything there is really important for us, right? And now if we ask for any of that information, like a referral, it can get captured there and get pushed over and we can work it from there. As far as like actually tracking where things come from, it's still a fairly manual process in the fact that like we actually have to ask
Mhm.
and know to ask a couple layers deeper to get the real answer. Oh, I heard from a friend. Okay, tell me what friend. Okay, what was that friend's name? Where's that friend work?
Mhm.
And then we might have to sit down internally and build that journey backwards because it's really hard to do. We're using Dream Data to try to do that now as far as like website visits and pulling in that first party intent data. And we're looking at a couple other things to look at some third party intent. Anyway.
You're feeding your email data and everything to Ebsta.
Mhm.
Which role does that play?
So one, it's activity tracking. It's tracking all those meetings across folks that may not even be in the sales motion now, but down the road, if a referral ever comes in or they come back, right, we can see how the relationship evolved over time, which I think is important because customer buying journey isn't just the 30 days from when someone raises their hand and says, I need help. It's that relationship, right?
Yeah. And just yesterday I had the situation that I jumped into my car, I had my phone in my hand, and I saw a long notification of somebody coming back with, hey, Steven, the deal that you proposed, blah, 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 blah. But I was in a hurry. I flip in my phone, I put on navigation, then I drive home, and then I spend an hour and a half to figure out what channel was that. He didn't send me an email. It wasn't a WhatsApp. It wasn't on LinkedIn. I finally sent him a WhatsApp. It's got like, dude, are we connected on Tinder or something? Because I can't find it. And he goes, no, that was Slack. And he's in my Slack. But it took me an hour to find that. How do you deal with all those channels, with all those people, and with a large team?
Segmentation as far as like on the team who handles what, right? So we try to have rules of engagement in place to make sure that we're showing up consistently and not in a way that's intrusive, right? I think that's really important. As far as staying on top of it, the notifications really help, right? Hit it when it's happening. I think that's one of the interesting things about the community approach, right? Everyone that's in there expects some type of value out of the community. And when you can show up consistently and you can meet somebody when they're asking their question, they're probably more likely to respond. You know, if you've got an inbound on your website and someone hits the, yeah, I want a demo, and you get back to them, more likely to book that demo, right? We're all feeding that instant gratification monster that lives within most people. And you're adding value to the community. You're giving them what they're hoping for. It's all these things that sort of
You're
line up
moving
together
them from the people who don't know you to the people who know you, but you don't
Mhm.
necessarily need to know them, right?
You don't necessarily need to, but I would say it's a good idea to.
Yeah,
Right?
but you want to, but it's easier. It's easier to offer something to people who know you, and they don't necessarily need. You don't necessarily need to know them just yet. You can get to know them on the customer journey. Cliff, a question that I ask every guest that I have here: if I would have a time machine that allows you to write a postcard to the 5-year younger Cliff with a warning of what not to do, what would you write? Dear 5-year younger Cliff, don't do.
The majority of the mistakes I made over the last 5 years are the ones that have allowed me to grow the most. I would say get more sleep. Number one, also having 3 kids at 3.5 and under. I love it, but maybe a little bit more planning. No, my wife would
Congratulations,
kill me if I
man.
said that. Thanks. The other part in there would be just to be more pragmatic in the way that you're building a business. I think we grew so quickly in the first 2 years that we didn't think about the full on effect of that knock on.
Mhm.
And I would say, just like most startups, you got to take the time to build all the operating processes and the underlying architecture that drives your business. And I think we could have done a better job of that in year one and year two. And when I say we, I think I could do a better job of that in year one and year two.
I think you're raising 3 kids. You're doing an amazing job. By the
I
way,
got a lot of
that's the
help.
difference. If you, most people answer, trust your guts or something like this. But if you're a parent, then just get more sleep.
I got to be honest, my wife does an amazing job and lets me get a ton of it.
I'm sure it's both of you. All right, everyone. That brings us to the end of this episode of Speak Revenue. I want to thank our guest, Cliff Simon, for joining us and being such a fantastic guest and sharing your insights and your story with us. A huge shout out to all our listeners. Your support means the world for us. Please remember to check our website at speakrevenue.com and visit us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as long as we still have that, Spotify, and wherever you go for your listening needs. And please leave a review. It really helps to get the word out. Also, follow us on LinkedIn, on Insta, on YouTube, and wherever you find us. We'll be back soon with another great guest. Until then, stay curious, keep listening, and stay safe. See you soon.